Ready?
1 second. Go.
Okay, so I'm really excited to introduce our speaker tonight. Our speaker, my husband and I have known him since he's a little boy in yeshiva, and very, very close with him. And he has grown into this incredible speaker, and he works in Australia. He runs a whole community there. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know all the details. So Menachem, you can fill it in. But yeah, he runs a community. He works with all different students and different people in his community, and he's very charismatic and humorous and lovable, and we love him, and we're so happy to have him here. So Menachem Channen, go ahead and take over.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank Rabbi Granitsky and Rabbis and Granitsky for the opportunity to speak to Torch in Houston, Texas. This is very exciting for me, all the way from down under. So don't worry, my accent is not Australian, and the reason for that being is I am not Australian, I'm actually Israeli. So if you're wondering how the Granitskys know me, they know me from Eretz Yisrael. So, before I start, there's a joke we always make from Australia, is that you could tell America the future, because I am already on Thursday, almost afternoon here. So I'm telling you now that tomorrow, Thursday, the sun will shine. So just that's like a thing they always say from Australia, you can tell the future. Okay, we're 15 hours before you guys. That's quite an interesting thing. Okay, we'll start off with the following story that happened to me. And I want to develop the idea together with all of you. And it's the following thing. I used to go into school. This was a very modern school, pretty much a non-religious school, but an Orthodox school. I don't know if this exists in America, but in Australia, this exists. You have a non-religious school, but it's Orthodox, which means they get the kids to put on tefillin and things like that, but the kids are not really involved in anything religious. The families are not religious, they're not religious, but the school is kind of religious. Anyhow, so they asked me if I could come in. I was a rabbi of a community at the time, and they asked me if I can come in and speak to the students. So I used to come in for at 8:30 for 20 minutes. Then I would run out to go teach in my community. So I come in one day and I show up to the classroom, and I had about 30 students. I only had half of the year 12 kids. And I show up there, and these are 17-year-olds, no one's there. So I don't often check my emails, but because I arrive and I see no one's there, obviously they sent me an email about this, and as usual, I didn't look at my email. So I have a look at my email, and I realize they actually have a soldier visiting from Israel, and all the kids went to hear what he has to say, and it's in the auditorium of the school. So I went to the auditorium to hear what the soldier's about. I'm already in the school. You know what? I'll go and listen to this soldier. So I went to the room, and all year 11 and year 12 are there, and it's quite a big school. So all year 11 and year 12 is over 200 kids altogether, over 200 kids. And they start the story with a video. They show the video of the soldier's story. I'll tell you quickly what the story was. The story was the soldier is from a combat special forces in the Israeli army, and they were going into Gaza, and together him and 13 other soldiers were meant to take over a building, and then from there they were meant to protect the army to come into Gaza. They meant to locate a good building where they can have good vision of what's going on and see if anyone's trying to attack them. So as they're trying to enter into this building, they get ambushed by the Hamas terrorists, and 13 of them get wounded, except that soldier. One soldier didn't get wounded. They go into the building, they kind of struggle to get in, but they all get in. And he has to protect them now that the terrorists don't enter into the building. In the meantime, they're calling for backup. Backup took 45 minutes to come. In the meantime, the soldiers shot 40,000 bullets and threw 48 hand grenades. If you calculate that, it means every hand grenade went out less than a minute. So he had 45 minutes. He's throwing 48 hand grenades plus shooting over 40,000 bullets to protect his 13 friends. Eventually, backup came. They got them out of there. They helped him. He saved his friends. He got one of the greatest awards you can get in the Israeli army, a medal, one of the greatest medals. And that was the story. After that, they gave the students to hear from the soldier himself. So he stands up forward. But he happens to be a real Israeli. And when I say a real Israeli, it's like someone from like Netivot, you know, like Sderot, like the real Israeli thing. So his English is broken as could be. And he gets up and he says, very, very important to learn school. Pretty much he was saying it's important to learn in school. I think that's what he was saying. But when he got up to speak, there was complete silence. You can hear a pin drop, the complete silence out of respect to this guy. And I left the auditorium. I had to run, give my shir. And as I'm running to my car, I'm thinking to myself, I must have in my life have better things to say than that to the students. Yet I never got silence from them. And I had only 30 showing up to my class. And it took me a lot to get them to concentrate and listen to what I have to say. And here you have a guy that comes in and barely says anything meaningful. And he has a pin drop silence for it. And I'm thinking, I must have smarter things to say than that. Why don't I get this pin drop silence? That was the thought that was going through my head as I'm walking to my car. And obviously the answer is, you don't have a story like he has. I don't have the story he has. And I was wondering, the next day I showed up to the class and I kind of wanted to stir up the kids. So I asked him the following question. I asked him, tell me something. Do you think the soldier from last night was a hero? And of course, all the kids pick up their hands and say, of course he was a hero. So I asked him the following question. I said to them, tell me something. Did he have a choice? Did he have a choice? I mean, one choice is to try and run back to Israel border, but he probably will get shot and killed. The other choice is he can melt down and start crying, but then he will become captured, God forbid, by the terrorists. So what was his choice? I mean, usually a hero means a guy is standing by train tracks and someone falls in and he's standing there and he looks up and he can see on the platform, there's 1 minute to go, the train is coming. What do? Do you jump in? Do you not jump in? Split second decision, you jump in, you pull the guy out, whoever it is, and you roll it, and the train comes past and everyone's breathing and wow, that's a hero. He had a choice to stand there and do nothing, not put his life in risk, but he did it for the sake of saving someone else. That's a hero. But here, what's your choice? So the kids were really upset with me, especially when they saw my black yarmulke on my head. They were assuming that I'm anti the army or something. So they weren't gonna let me get away with that quickly. So they were digging into me. What do you mean? What do you mean? I said, tell me, answer my question. So one girl said, well, he had a choice. He didn't have to join the army. I said, great answer. Great answer. He didn't have to go into combat. I said, unbelievable. What about the other 13 soldiers? Did they get medals for that decision? You only gave a medal to this guy. What about the other 13 soldiers? They didn't get a medal for making that decision. So he was put in a circumstance that the other 13 soldiers were not put into, which means he was not wounded. They were wounded. He was the lucky one. And because he was the lucky one that didn't get wounded, he had the opportunity to shoot and protect his friends. But hopefully his friends would do the same thing if they did not get wounded. But he was the lucky one. And for that, he got a medal and he became famous, and he gets a pin drop silence from the kids, which showed respect. And I realized something fascinating, and I think it's a profound idea that we all have to keep very close to our hearts. I realized that to become great by the eyes of other people, many times will be circumstantial situations. Meaning, Sometimes you'll become wealthy because you were at the right place at the right time. Sometimes you'll become famous. I mean, there's probably hundreds of musicians out there that are very good musicians, brilliant musicians that will never become famous because they don't know what to do with their talent, or they don't know how to take that talent, right? They don't have the opportunity to show their talent to become famous. One of the great singers in Israel, he's a famous singer in the Omer Adam, for those that know him. He became famous through a TV show that gave him an opportunity to show his skill. But if he didn't get that opportunity, he would never become a famous singer, right? So people are given an opportunity sometimes, but many are not. And many will remain unknown, but will have plenty of talent. So too goes to who we are as individuals. Our self-worth in this world is not dependent on how famous we become, because that is dependent on your luck or your circumstance. Who you are in this world is very much dependent on the decisions that you make to do the right thing, like those other 13 soldiers. But they will never get a medal for their decision. He will, because he had a circumstantial situation that allowed him to get that medal. His friends didn't. But his friends are just as great heroes as he is. And they're just as important. But no one will ever give them a pin drop silence because they didn't achieve what he achieved. But they should give themselves that pin drop silence, which means everyone knows how much they pushed to get to where they are today. They could have had nervous breakdowns. They could have had trouble. They could have given many times. They had to fight for their own growth. How many people have to push themselves to come on to Torch and learn with their partner and make sure they're learning and push themselves? You know what? I should be learning. There's so many people out there that could be learning. Why aren't they coming and learning? Because it's difficult. Because you have to push yourself. Because you have to make a decision to go forward and do something. So I think it's extremely important for us to give ourselves that pin drop silence to ourselves and recognize our struggles. I don't need others to recognize them because that's circumstantial. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe I'll become famous, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll get respect, maybe I won't. But God does not look at that. God looks at the effort, not at the product that comes out. So in our lives, we have to look and see, we make decisions that are worthwhile. And when we make those decisions, we have to embrace those and realize that we are heroes to ourselves in our private life, because we made right decisions that sometimes were difficult, but made us better people. So that's just an idea that came to my head. And I thought, the kids, when I show up, they don't know how hard I work. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. How much effort I put to achieve what I'm achieving, they have no clue. They don't know my story. And they probably will never know my story because it's not as a Rambo story as this guy. But my story is my personal story of growth will remain my private story, but deserves a lot of credit for myself to recognize. I think today in the world that we live today, it's so much against that. Because I deal with teenagers, I deal with uni students, university students. They have all the gratification comes from likes on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on whatever it is. That's where they get the gratification. That's where they get their self-worth. But in our life, we have to learn that that's not really where it counts. It counts in our own lives and where we're going to grow. So I thought that would be a great idea to take with you guys. Sorry it's so short, but I was given a limited time to speak to you guys. So I had to keep to the time. And thank you so much for this great opportunity. It's so special to see what's going on in Houston, Texas. Thank you so much. And Rabbi Cohen, just for you, last thing. I remember you on the Yishuv, and I remember one thing. My brother Shlomo was 11 years old, and we bumped into you, and my oldest brother Elazar had his bar mitzvah, and you asked when is Shlomo's bar mitzvah, and we said no, it's a long time, it's in 2 years. You said 2 years is not a long time. So now we're quite a few years after that bar mitzvah of Shlomo, and time does fly. So we have to make the most of it whenever it comes to us and use that time at the best way possible. So Shkoyach, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to all of you.
And thank you so much